All right. Hello, everyone. We're here with the Arts Partnership and some really fun photographers who have been featured on The Fence here in Fargo, Moorhead, and West Fargo. If you've checked it out, it's a public art display of art or photos from all over the world. It's really exciting to have some of the local artists here to talk with us. I'm joined with Dana from the Arts Partnership and our fellow artists. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. I'm also talking, or we're also joined with Dave Shelley. He's the co-founder, or one of the co-founders of Photoville. And so we're excited to hear his perspective from the big city and how kind of this idea can transfer to all over, and how flexible it's been, and just kind of your impressions of meeting all these cool artists. They're from all around the world. So we're happy to have you here and talking with our community of artists in Fargo Moorhead.
Fantastic.
Well, Dave, tell us a little bit about your experience in going into other cities. I know there's a lot of logistics. You have to send lots of back and forth. We have people like Danica McDonald's on our team. She's been managing a lot of the logistics behind that and going back and forth with people. But what's it like when you get to expand into a new city and there's all these different challenges that go with it?
For sure. First of all, hello to everybody out there. And I do want to correct, even though I'm living in a big city, I'm not a big city boy.
Okay.
I just wanted that to be on the record. I did grow up in Detroit and Kentucky. My mother grew up without plumbing or electricity, and that's where I spent my summers. So I don't want anybody to think, oh, that New York intellectual guy was on here. No, it's a working class dude from Detroit that somehow, just to give you a quick background, so other people, when they see this, name of our company is Photoville. We're a nonprofit. We're here in New York City. My partners are Sam Barzilay and Laura Romanes. And literally over just about 9 years ago, we started the actual festival Photoville. And right before that, we started this project called The Fence. And I think it's, historically, it's really my partner Sam's idea. We kind of have a home in Brooklyn Bridge Park right by the Brooklyn Bridge and the Manhattan Bridge in Brooklyn. And it's a beautiful park now that was under construction heavily like 10 years ago. And Sam noticed one day that once you entered the park, because there's no streets, it's along the waterfront. There's a street at the beginning and kind of a street at the end for access. And they put up, to protect people, they put up a walking lane of construction fencing. And once you were in, you weren't out till you were about a mile away. So he said, what a great place to like think about, let's do an exhibit. Because that's where we were moving. We had a gallery at the time, and we were trying to find ways to get more eyes on fantastic photography and engaging stories outside of the gallery world. So we started coming up with these ideas of shipping containers and the fence and all of that. So that's really how the fence started the first year. And then it just grew slowly throughout that. Now we're in Brooklyn, Boston, Atlanta, Santa Fe, Houston, Calgary, Sarasota, New Orleans, Durham, Seattle, and obviously you guys in 3 cities, the hat trick for a northern town. We should have some kind of like Stanley Cup trophy for that type of event. Drinking champagne out this year. But logistically, and Danica, she's been great. Everybody's been great with the partnership, you guys. Thank you so much. You've made something actually quite challenging pulled off with us not physically being there for the first time. And it's been a mixed bag of trying to make it happen that way. And it's also really sad for me and for my other partners, because it's usually myself or Sam. We usually go to every city. We meet all you guys. We help put the fence up ourselves. We show people how to do it the first time. We usually have a really nice pre-pandemic walking tour, and we have some nice drinks, and we talk about great photography and these great stories. So I'm really sad to miss that experience and even see what it's like up there, but to be able to do it and be able to do it, obviously with the technology that we have now of just like being able to send you a video, talk everybody through it. You guys send us photos to see, this is what the fence looks like. This is how many feet we have. So, and basically it turns out into, you just basically have to get the site. How does that work? How many linear feet is that? And how can we take that feet, have our designer, Joanne Koo, who's fabulous, turn that into a design that we can work and send you guys and get up. And then once you get it up, I mean, I think, I hope that you guys have seen the reactions that we have as soon as we put up, especially in cities when we've come back for the second time. Like we have people like a lot of times in Atlanta, it's a shorter, smaller fence. So to lay it out, we lay it down on the ground first, pick it up, and we put it on. And people are coming, jogging and walking and everything. They're like, "Oh my gosh, you're back. This is fantastic. We've been waiting. We've been waiting." And I certainly hope that that'll be the response for you all as well.
Great. Well, I'm just realizing how exciting it is to have you here in lieu of being able to visit us, and I'm sure the rest of the artists here that are joining us are just as excited too. So I want to go through and have everybody introduce themselves, and I'm pretty sure most of our followers know you guys already. But if you want, we should have arranged this before. But why don't we start with Scott? Tell us your name, the name of your the body of work that's on the fence, and maybe a little bit of like an experience that you've had with this and and working to kind of get this going too.
Cool. Well, yeah, I'm Scott Olsen, and the work that I've got out there is from a larger project called Scenes from a Moving Window. A couple of years ago, I got the idea to see the country from an Amtrak sleeper car, and basically, lock my camera to the window and watch the country go by, and try to understand the country as a moving diorama. I was lucky enough to take that trip a couple of years ago. The idea worked out. And so those are the images that are up on the fence. It's been a real joy.
And one thing I learned actually recently is you work with students actually on this train trip, which was really cool too. Was there two students?
I had two students doing an awful lot of background research for me, so that when I would pull into the most remote station on the trip, I would know the history, I would know all the fine points. It really did help train the camera as I was going along, knowing that there were things coming up that I would not have known or seen if I had not been prepared.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe you missed out on a pun for train the camera of the title if you wanted
to. Hey, Scott, your photos are fantastic. And so you're like the reverse guy of O. Winston Link. You're setting everything up from the inside as you go by. And what I wanted to say, I mean, it really made me feel like I was actually at that place when I was going through. That's kind of the impression that I got through seeing that. So congratulations. And I look forward to seeing your exhibition in the Amtrak Cafe when we get them all framed and put up. That's what we would be thinking, I'm sure. Because we've done exhibitions like on ferry boats, any place possible. We're trying to do a show.
That would be fantastic.
Great.
Scott, I mean, Eric, this is what's happening. I'll be right back.
No, and please, we're having a very casual conversation. So if you need to do anything.
I had to go take bread out of the oven. So I'm sorry. I forgot that I had bread baking, and then I heard my dinger go off and I thought, I can't leave it. It will be a ruined loaf of bread. So I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing I wanted to mention too about Scott being involved with this is you actually kind of presented the idea to the Arts Partnership, and we're really integral in getting this started with us. And you were there on the day when we set it up, very ready to see your work and see everybody else's. And that was a special part to be able to have, just people excited about it. And we had just random strangers showing up too, which was cool. I don't think people will be as excited about us taking it down. But
no, let's hope not. But it was a real pleasure because, as you know, I was just trolling through the internet one day looking at galleries, and I came upon Photoville in the Fence. I'm a great fan of public art, things like, the poetry and sidewalks or anything, utility boxes. I think that's all fantastic work. I saw this and I said, oh, we've got to have this. The only thing I did is make one phone call to you guys, and you said absolutely. So the real credit goes to the Arts Partnership for all the energy, all the insight, and the work to bring it and make it real.
Well, let me say thank you for that. The real credit goes to Danica on our team, who really did the lion's share of the work, and to 702 Communications, who was the signature sponsor, and to the CVB, who came in to sponsor it as well. That was how we got to bring in a regional artist component, which was really important to us it didn't make sense for us to bring in public art that was only international photographers. We wanted to make sure that it was also photographers who were local and regional to the community. So both of those businesses were really, really vital to our ability to do this together, and a perfect example of how collaborations can be really successful and also pretty painless. I say that because Danica's not on the call, but pretty painless in the big picture. If someone's got a good idea and another organization can kind of gather it all together. So we were lucky to have you check in with us.
And how about John? Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your work?
Hi, I'm John Solinger, and the work that I have on the fence is from my Working Land project, which has been ongoing for a while. And they are photographs about people who live in my rural Otter Tail County neighborhood down here southeast of Fargo-Moorhead, in a whole different landscape. You know, there's the valley, which is very flat. Now out here, we're woodsy and hilly, so it's a big transition in landscape between here and there. But it's about people who live around me, who live in a rural lifestyle, and they are connected to the landscape through their work and through their making a living on the land, at least partially or wholly. And they're environmental portraits, and I wanted to do portraiture with people in their element, in their place, in their workplace especially. And there's sort of a formal portrait in a way, but also very environmental. I tried to make a composition out of their workplace, out of their surroundings, and stop them for just a moment and just pause and do a sort of a formal portrait of them in their workplace. And I think it's been interesting to me showing this work, not only on the fence, but earlier in other locations around here. A lot of people really seem to relate to this in their own family histories about connection to rural places, rural work. And especially in Fargo-Moorhead, it seems to me it's grown so much in the last few decades of all the people who live in rural places and rural small towns that have kind of moved into the Fargo-Moorhead area that still have this connection to the rural life and rural work. And I think people seem to really relate to that imagery and that life.
Yeah, and we actually have a book of this work at the office. So I'm familiar with this body of work, and I'm forgetting what the name of the lady is though with the cats. Marlis, right?
Yes.
That was very striking to me. I love that. I love that photo, and it was really cool to hear kind of the responses to your work as well.
John, what's great too is they're really kind of timeless. It could be any time period. The only thing that shows that it's different now is that, you know, are they wearing Carhartts or not? No, that kind of thing. But it really, I think that's why people connect to this, because if you have this in your family, it's just another slice of time that just is so, you know, it's a big memory for everyone. And you made everyone everyone looks very comfortable. So congratulations.
Thank you. I think it helps when Marlis is actually one of my aunts in my family. So I've known her forever. She's known me forever. So I think there's a kind of a interpersonal comfort that helps in portraiture. You get somebody's trust. They believe in my project, and they trust me to do something good with it. So I think that helps the process.
Dave, when I come to visit you or visit my brother next, I'll bring John's book so you can see it, because it's a really beautiful collection of work, and there's some illustrations with it and some interesting overlays of GPS photography with landscapes. It's a really, really fascinating book.
But are there recipes? People are going to ask, are there recipes? Farmhouse recipes.
I don't think so, but that could be an addendum.
That's another project altogether.
Okay, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, why don't we go to Chris, and you can tell us a little bit about your work and introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Mortensen. The project that I have up on the fence was from Tumulus, which is a project I've been working on for a few years now about, well, specifically about the Iron Range in Minnesota, but even more than that, the Mesabi Range, which is, there's 3 separate iron ranges. Mesabi Range is one that's still being used, that actually about 70% of the iron ore that the United States uses comes out of there. And, you know, that project started when, I think probably when I was about 14, I think it started, not in the picture making, but my uncle used to teach at Hibbing Community College. And just on a visit to him, you know, we were out in, I think in downtown Hibbing, and he pointed at a small mountain and said, do you see that? And I said, yeah, you know, and he said, that's completely man-made. And that just really sort of like, you know, I grew up in South Dakota, and that sort of like shook me that you could have such a huge thing be man-made, and with trees planted on the top, and they kind of look like red velvet. And so, you know, when I moved to Minnesota 5 years ago, I knew that that was going to be a project because it had been percolating in my mind for a long time. I think it has sort of defined the way that I think about landscape and make landscape work, which is a common theme in all of the work that I make. And so I started trying to do this sort of large scale project about those mounds of overburden, and quickly realized that it was going to be pretty redundant and boring if it was just a bunch of images of that. And so it's, as projects often do, it's evolved 2 or 3 times. I'm still working on it, which has been proven to be a little bit of a challenge in the pandemic, mostly because the phase that I'm working on now is trying to get some people involved in the work. But you know, it's slowly now coming together, and hopefully in the next year or so I can get that work sort of finished up. But it was great fun to be a part of. I lucked out in that my actual work is about a 15 to 20 minute walk from my house. And so last weekend, after having too much Thanksgiving food, my partner and I walked down, and it was fun to see her looking at the work, not necessarily my work, but all the other stuff, and ingesting art in that way, and seeing people drive by really slowly. And I've been driving by it more regularly, just to see what it looks like at different times in the day. You know, I mean, since the material is at times see-through, and so like in the early morning, you can see the fence, the structure of the fence behind it, which alters the work. And yeah, it's been really nice to be a part of.
That's great.
Well, I do want to hit our time mark. Obviously, we're going to be kind of wrapping up at 2:30, but I wanted to let anybody else kind of.
Wait, we haven't talked to Char-Marie yet.
No, I meant to comment about Chris's work.
Oh, sorry.
No,
Hey,
no,
Chris. Hey, Chris, I'll say that, you know, I thought your photos, they made me want to linger, because I'm trying to figure out, there's something going on. There's some kind of mystery, and I want to know it's like that moment before something happens, and I want to see what's happening. And you're bringing up this whole iron ore thing. For me, you know, I don't know if it's the same vein that it comes from, but growing up as a kid in Detroit, you know, on the Detroit Riverside, that's my whole life. I've seen these freighters moving iron ore all the way, I'm sure from out your way, all the way out towards the eastern seaboard. So, and a lot of times we don't make that connection, how something comes from one place and ends up in another place.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's a big, like, everything in the Northeast with all the steel making and everything is connected, and economies are so connected. And I found it to be a really rich place. I mean, even in South Dakota, or I mean, even in Minnesota, people think of it as a standoffish place where, you know, people sort of are insular. I found it to be very warm in a lot of ways, but geographically it's very difficult to move around because the mines own so much land. And so in the work, I've been trying to show barriers in some way, either, you know, sometimes psychologically, but even physical barriers, but also looking at works. I like the idea of, you know, the viewer lingering, because as you start to see things, sometimes it might appear at first to be just sort of a beautiful landscape, and then you sort of realize what's happening, and realize that, you know, entire hillsides have either been built up or stripped away as you're looking at the image. And yeah, I think that it's a geographical location that has so many different things going on that are overlooked, and I think it's worth taking a look at because it's important in a lot of ways, not just economically, but I think it's important in a lot of ways, especially to Minnesota.
Cool, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. And how about Char Marie? Can we hear from you about your work?
Yes, hi everybody. My name's Char Marie Flood, and the excerpt on the fence is from a larger body of work called Trees of Winter. And I began working on this over 20 years ago now. I had lived out in California and returned to the Midwest. I grew up in Minnesota, so my concept of winter was really as severe as it is here in North Dakota. But I moved to Chicago, and I found it to be fierce, but in many ways milder, so that there were days that you could go out and truly enjoy the beauty of winter. And it was during my tenure there that I started to really notice the magnificent contrast between the tree house being so stark and bare against the snow. And I started just kind of studying snow. I discovered William Bentley's work, who was a photographer who dedicated his life to photographing individual snowflakes, and who actually proved that each snowflake is completely different depending on what the weather pattern is and how the snowflake falls through the various levels of the atmosphere. So I learned a lot about photographing in the cold. I learned a lot about all the different kinds of snow, when and with time, when I should go out and try to photograph. A lot of times I'm always just naturally attracted to trees. So I'm photographing with my eyes and wait until the weather was right, and usually right after a snow, not during a snow. I would go out and try to create that image then. There's one photograph in the fence that I guess I'm kind of most challenged by, because the snow is actually falling, and that's very, very difficult. You get big blotches everywhere, and of course you can Photoshop it, but I'm a purist, and I was determined to get a good photograph with the snow falling. So anyway, all of that, I have to say, is truly, for me, an act of worship. And the discovery of each snowflake being so magnificently unique and beautiful just set off a whole winter adventure that got me outside and really celebrating the beauty of nature. I've had people approach me and say, "Oh, I wish you would have been there Tuesday morning on my way to work, because there was this beautiful scene." And it just makes my heart sing, because it's not about my photography. It's about that you now see that and stop and appreciate it. So the fact that it was put on a venue like this, even going into winter, was really just thrilling.
Great. And I told you earlier before everyone got on, but one of the things that your photos meant to me was that the strength of a tree, the resilience of a tree in a wintertime, and what we all personally are going through as a human race right now. And that, we can do it. We can be as strong as a tree and bend when we have to, and be strong when we have to. And you're right, it is a form of worship, this planet and this nature. And you really captured it magnificently. Thank you.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I think we had a very robust conversation. I'm so happy that all of these very experienced and just inspirational artists could join us today. And every time we get artists to join us on here, I'm just even more excited that we can have conversations like this again when we're not together. So Dave, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure. And thank you, all you photographers, for being part of this project.
Yes.
It means a lot to us, but I don't think you may have a glimpse of what it means to other people if you're out there and you can see people looking at your work.
Yeah, it's been a gift for us to get to work with you and with Photoville and all of your team too, Dave. It's really, I'm sad to see it coming down actually, because it's been such a great, just a really uplifting thing to have, and the weather has helped and all of that. But it will be sad. It's kind of like when Christmas lights come down. You just feel like, oh my gosh, now we just have winter. So I'm sad it's coming down, but I've sure loved having it up, and we loved having the local artist component, and we loved being your first Tri-City location, and we loved that you figured out how to help us get that thing hung from 2,000 miles away. So thanks for all of your patience and your work with us, Dave.
Our pleasure.
All right,
Talk
have a
soon.
great day, everybody. Bye.
All right.
Thanks
Have a
so
good
much.
weekend. Stay safe.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.